Sir, please tell me your name. Sir, you've been charged with first-degree premeditated murder. State, you want to add anything?
Yes, Judge. This being a capital offense, he's not entitled to bond. Additionally, looking at the arrest affidavit, this murder was at complete random. He approached several neighbors in that neighborhood. Additionally, he had, according to the affidavit, knocked on another neighbor's door and attempted to step inside when she answered the door. He stabbed her up, the victim upwards of 16 times, and was actively stabbing her while the responding deputy responded to the scene. He spoke with law enforcement and did state that he killed her, and when asked to describe her, the only way he could describe her was that she was Jewish.
It started as a normal morning in a quiet Florida retirement community, the kind of place where people feel safe enough to leave their doors unlocked and greet their neighbors by name. An elderly woman stepped outside to walk her dog, following the same routine she had kept for years. But not long after she left her home, something went terribly wrong. By the time help arrived, she had been stabbed 16 times. There was no sign of robbery, no clear motive, and no known connection to anyone who might want to harm her. What makes this case especially disturbing is that investigators believe the attacker, a man named Kirsten Francilis, may not have known her at all. The victim was a 75-year-old woman who had lived in the community for years. It was a peaceful neighborhood, mostly made up of retirees who valued quiet routines and familiarity. She was known for keeping to herself, but was always polite. Every morning, she followed the same walking route with her dog. It was predictable, and in a place like this, predictability felt safe. There had been no recent reports of violent crime in the area, nothing that would have made residents feel like they were in danger. That sense of security is part of what makes this case so difficult to process. You're watching Crime in the Shadows, where we take a closer look at the moments that seem ordinary on the surface, but reveal something much darker underneath. That morning followed the same pattern as any other. The weather was calm, and the streets were mostly empty. At some point during her walk, something changed. One of the first signs that something was wrong came from a neighbor who noticed a dog wandering alone. The leash was still attached, but the owner was nowhere in sight. At first, it didn't seem alarming. It could have been an accident. But then, another detail emerged. Someone nearby reported hearing a brief cry. It was quick and unclear, and it didn't immediately register as a call for help. Moments like that are often dismissed in quiet neighborhoods. But in this case, that moment would later become critical. The woman was found not far from her usual walking route. When emergency responders arrived, it quickly became clear that this was a violent attack. According to investigators, she had been stabbed 16 times. This level of violence immediately raised concerns. Multiple stab wounds can indicate extreme aggression or a loss of control. However, there were no signs of a prolonged struggle, and nothing had been taken from her. This was not a robbery. It appeared to be a sudden and highly aggressive act that ended as quickly as it began. Investigators began reconstructing the timeline. They spoke to residents, reviewed surveillance footage, and searched for anything that might explain what happened. Several witnesses reported seeing a man in the area earlier that morning. He was described as standing alone, not interacting with anyone, and not appearing to follow any routine typical of the neighborhood. This man would later be identified as Kirsten Francilis. Surveillance footage showed a figure moving through the area around the estimated time of the attack. However, tracking his movements proved difficult. There was no clear footage showing him leaving the scene immediately afterward. This created a troubling possibility. He may have remained in the area longer than anyone realized. The lack of a clear motive forced investigators to consider a different kind of crime. One possibility is what experts refer to as an opportunistic attack. In these cases, the victim is not specifically targeted in advance. Instead, the attacker acts based on circumstance. The victim becomes vulnerable simply because they are alone and accessible. However, even opportunistic attacks usually involve some form of trigger. In this case, the level of violence suggests something more intense. 16 stab wounds is not typical of a brief encounter. It indicates a level of aggression that goes beyond simple impulse. This raises questions about the mental and emotional state of the attacker at the time. As the investigation progressed, Kirsten Francilis was officially identified as the primary suspect. Authorities found no evidence of a personal connection between him and the victim. There was no indication that he knew her or had any reason to target her specifically. However, witnesses confirmed that he had been seen in the area before. This suggests that while the victim may not have been specifically chosen, the location itself may not have been entirely random. In the end, the case left behind more than just grief. It left uncertainty. A neighborhood that once felt safe now carries a sense of unease. A simple morning routine became the setting for a violent and unexplained act. Even with a suspect identified, the lack of a clear motive continues to make this case difficult to fully understand. Do you think this was truly a random act of violence, or do you believe there were warning signs that went unnoticed? And if something like this can happen during something as routine as a morning walk, how safe are we really in the places we trust the most? If you found this story compelling, make sure to subscribe to Crime in the Shadows for more in-depth investigations. Hit the like button if you want us to cover more unexplained crimes, and leave your thoughts in the comments. We want to know what you think about this case and what might have driven Kirsten Francilis to act. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an episode, and share this video with friends who are fascinated by true crime.